All right, get ready for a story that connects one of the most humble creatures on Earth with the mind-blowing scale of our entire galaxy. We're talking about the dung beetle and its incredible galactic GPS. You heard that right. This little insect, with a brain you could barely see, uses the light from billions of stars, millions of light years away, to find its way home. And no, this isn't something out of a science fiction movie. This is a real, proven, scientific fact. So the big question is, why? Why would a beetle possibly need a navigation system that's so incredibly advanced? Well, to get that, you have to understand the world of a dung beetle is, well, it's pretty high stakes. I love this quote from Professor Marcus Byrne because it just perfectly sums it all up. A fresh pile of dung is like a gold rush. It's an absolute free-for-all, a total chaotic mess. And once a beetle gets its prize, the #1 priority is to just get away from the crowd, fast. So the mission, if you will, is simple, but it is absolutely critical. Step 1, find the dung. Step 2, shape it into a perfect portable ball. And step 3, roll it away in the straightest, fastest line you possibly can. Because if you hesitate, if you start rolling in circles, you risk losing that precious meal to another beetle. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? When there's no sun, no moon to guide them, how in the world do they maintain that perfect, straight escape route? This is the exact puzzle that sent scientists on this incredible journey of discovery. Okay, so how did scientists actually prove this? How did they figure it out? Let's take a look at how they cracked the case. Scientists started noticing this really weird thing. Right before a beetle would take off with its dung ball, it would climb on top and do this little spin, this little pirouette. For the longest time, nobody knew why. But then, researchers started to suspect this was the beetle's way of getting its bearings, of taking a quick snapshot of the sky. Now, this discovery didn't happen overnight. It was actually a decade in the making. Back in 2003, they found some beetles could use polarized moonlight. Then, by 2012, they confirmed that little dance was, in fact, how they orient themselves. And then in 2013 came the bombshell, the proof that on the darkest nights, these beetles were steering by the faint light of our own galaxy. And this is where the science gets really cool and clever. To make sure it was the stars, they took the beetles into a planetarium. With the Milky Way projected on the ceiling, the beetles navigated perfectly. But when they turned it off, the beetles were completely lost. And get this, they even made tiny cardboard caps for them. When the beetles couldn't see the sky, they couldn't roll in a straight line. Case closed. Okay, so we know that they do it. But the next question is how? It all comes down to the fact that they see the universe in a completely different way than we do. Here's the fundamental difference. When you and I look up, we see individual stars. We see constellations like the Big Dipper. A beetle's eyes, they're just not powerful enough for that. For a dung beetle, the entire Milky Way, with its billions of stars, just blurs into one single, hazy stripe of light across a dark sky. So here's the secret. They aren't trying to connect the dots or find a specific star. They use that entire blurry stripe of the galaxy as one giant reference line. They can sense the subtle difference in brightness from one side of the stripe to the other, and that's all they need to lock onto a direction and just go. So just how sensitive do their eyes need to be? I mean, how much of a light difference do they need to actually pull this off? Well, it turns out it all comes down to this one number. 13%. That is the minimum difference in brightness they need to see to get their bearings. And guess what? The natural contrast in the light from the Milky Way is way above that. For a dung beetle, it's like a perfectly painted, glowing highway across the night sky. Now, this whole thing is way more than just a fascinating piece of trivia. It's a blueprint. It's a direct line connecting this ancient insect to some of our most advanced future technology. It all falls into this incredible field called biomimetics, which really is just the practice of looking at nature, which has been solving complex problems for millions of years, and using those solutions to solve our own engineering challenges. And it's already happening. Engineers are developing AI sensors that actually copy the beetle's method. See, because it's looking at a broad stripe of light, it isn't confused by motion blur the way a sensor trying to track tiny individual stars might be. The potential applications are huge. We're talking autonomous drones, robots, maybe even satellites, all navigating in low-light conditions thanks to a dung beetle. As Professor Javon Chall points out here,
Insects have been cracking these really complex problems for eons, and they've done it with brains that are just unbelievably small and efficient. It's an incredible lesson in engineering.
So let's just end with this thought. The key to our future of autonomous navigation might have been rolling around in the African savanna this whole time, looking up at the very same stars we do. It just makes you wonder, right? What other profound secrets are hiding out there in plain sight, just waiting for us to finally notice?